It is once again time to continue on with the 2025-26 season previews today, and we have the Pittsburgh Penguins. And yeah, not going to be a good team this year. Just being blunt with you, you look at this roster. This is what happens when you go through a winning team. When you win a lot of championships, when you have that pedigree, this is what happens. You get this as your result. Where at the end of it, where winning all the championships, holding up all the cups is fun. You know, the 2009, 2016, 2017 Stanley Cups. Now you get to 2025, where this team is not going to be good. And I'm so sorry to say that, but they're just not going to be good this year. The season previews are in full swing here on the YouTube channel, and we have now done Anaheim all the way up to Philadelphia. Alphabetically, we are a little bit under the 3-quarter mark for these season previews. We've done so many so far, I can't believe we are already almost at the end. But regardless, we are now on to the Pittsburgh Penguins, so let's hop in. So Pittsburgh is a team that, again, as I said, is not going to be very good, but they once were. But we are now almost 3 seasons removed from the last time they made the playoffs. And going back to 2022-23, where the first time they missed the Stanley Cup playoffs, they went 40, 31, and 11 for 91 points. They were 19th in the NHL. They missed the playoffs. And keep in mind, they were only like a point or two out of a playoff spot. That's what their gap was. It's wild too, because they went into their season where they were in the last 2 games of the year, and they're playing Chicago, I believe, and Columbus, and they lost both of them. They lost both of those games. And as a result, they missed the playoffs. Florida slips in, and that's changed everything. Could you imagine if Pittsburgh won that game against Chicago and they made the playoffs over Florida? I don't know if they win 2 straight Stanley Cups. I don't know. So Pittsburgh could have altered history there if they won that game, but they didn't. As a result, they were eliminated from the playoffs. In 2023-24, things would get slightly worse. They went 38, 32, and 12 for 88 points. They were 19th in the league. The thing that I remember, and what I remember a lot from most of these seasons, is that Pittsburgh's goaltending was not very good. It felt like their offense and their defense just kind of took a massive drop-off. And yeah, things weren't that great. But towards the end of the year, Sidney Crosby puts the team on his back, and they come super duper close. They were right up there battling alongside Detroit and Philadelphia for that playoff spot. Now Washington obviously takes it, but Pittsburgh, it just felt like it was too little, too late, and as a result, they missed. This past year, it was not close. It was not close whatsoever. They were not making the playoffs. They had nearly an 8-point drop-off, and you look at the first year they missed the playoffs to this year, they have dropped off from 11 points and 6 wins. So they went 34, 36, and 12 this year for 80 points. They were 24th in the NHL. What I really remember from this year was just super duper poor goaltending. The goaltending was absolutely atrocious. There was that insane stat about Tristan Jarry, where this season he let in a goal on the first shot like 5 times, on the second shot 3 times, on the third shot 4 times, on the 5th shot. This guy was awful this year, and most of the goaltending was as well. Nedeljkovic wasn't very good. Blomqvist had a little bit of a rough go of things, so it wasn't looking that great here for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and it still really isn't. They are now in this transition year where we're going to really see them just take a massive nosedive, in my opinion. I don't think they're going to be very good this year. They still have the pieces together here where they could possibly, maybe in the luck of a miracle, they maybe come close to the playoffs, but they won't make them. I just hate to say it. They're just not in the position right now where they can make the playoffs. So you look at your management here for the Pittsburgh Penguins. You have Kyle Dubas as your general manager. He has been here since 2023-24. I think overall there have been a lot of moves where I have been like, I don't like that. And Tristan Jarry, his contract was the biggest one. I didn't like the Erik Karlsson trade. But I think, especially since those moves, he's done a good job at kind of committing to the rebuild. And I think that in terms of his draft picks, I've had some criticism. Like, I look at some of these guys and I'm like, I don't really know if I like that draft pick. But regardless, he has built together a pretty interesting team that is heading into a rebuild. He's made some pretty good trades, though, in the mix. Like Artur Shilovs was a good contract and a good trade as well. And then Dan Moose is the new head coach. He was recently hired. Mike Sullivan has been released. I don't know a lot about Moose, to be honest with you. He was with the United States Development Program. He's coached young players, so he's been around that. And I think that's maybe something you can highlight there. But honestly, I don't know a ton about the guy in general, so I'm not going to speak a lot about him. But overall, I do think that this is a solid management. I have some trust in it. I have trust in Kyle Dubas getting this team through the rebuild. It could be interesting. So we'll see. Your key arrivals. And it's a pretty long list, I'm not going to lie to you, but it's a lot of players who are either fourth-line players or players that are just like players you pick up in the rebuild, to be honest with you. So you have Anthony Mantha, Justin Brazeau, Matt Dumba, Parker Wotherspoon, Connor Clifton, Artur Shilovs, and Alexander Alexiev are the guys that the Penguins acquired. So going through them each individually here, Anthony Mantha missed a lot of the season last year due to an injury with Calgary, but beforehand he was playing pretty solid. So he's coming back here with the Penguins this year. He won't be a bad acquisition. He's been okay for the most part throughout his NHL career. Justin Brazeau will be a fourth liner at best, maybe even not that. He could be a depth player, honestly, but most likely than not will be a bottom sixer. Matt Dumba, probably third pairing, and honestly, I wouldn't be shocked if somebody who is down below in the Wilkes-Barre system beats Matt Dumba out for a spot. He's not that great of a defenseman. It wouldn't shock me, but he's a good defenseman to have in a rebuild to accrue cap space. And then Parker Wotherspoon, I actually forgot to put him on my depth chart, but he's a good depth defenseman. And then Connor Clifton will fit in decently on this second pairing. Notice how I said decently. Artur Shilovs is the best one out of all of these. This guy was a Calder Cup champion last year with the Abbotsford Canucks. They got him for essentially nothing, and I think that overall he's going to fit in very well there in their backup role. And honestly, if Jari is the Jari that we saw last year, he could take over that starting role. And then Alexander Alexiev will be a decent extra defenseman there as well, probably 7th or 8th D. He is a right shot guy, though, so that does bring some value. But overall, these key arrivals, it's a long list, but there's not a lot of value here, to be honest with you. Looking at your key departures, it is a much shorter list, and the value might be even less than the guys that they brought in. You have Matt Grzelcyk, Alex Nedeljkovic, Matt Nieto, and Pierre-Olivier Joseph are the guys who are no longer on this Penguins team. Nothing big, honestly, nothing really that big. Grzelcyk is not even on a team anymore, and I'm really shocked about that. I'm like, why hasn't somebody tried to get this guy? There's a couple of guys like that on the market where I'm really confused why they're still there, but I digress. You have Nedeljkovic, who in my opinion, yeah, he's off to San Jose. He'll be okay. If he's a backup goaltender, it's not going to be that great. Matt Nieto, I'm not sure where he is now, but overall was one of those depth players that you could be like, oh yeah, he was in Pittsburgh for a little bit. And then Pierre-Olivier Joseph has been bouncing around the league a lot, going from St. Louis to Pittsburgh to St. Louis to like Pittsburgh. He's been all over the place. The Joseph brothers, I feel like, are just a real journeyman around this National Hockey League. But overall, your departures list is much shorter, and it's much less valuable, to be honest with you. So then you take a look at your depth chart here for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and this was made by the Hockey News. This was not made by me, so then that way I don't forget anybody or do something stupid, but that will probably happen here anyway. So let's start off here with your left wing side. You have Ville Koivunen, Rutger McGroarty, Anthony Mantha, Danton Heinen round out your first four. Then you have Noel Acciari as your extra forward there on that left wing side. So a lot of youth, and then there's some old in here. Koivunen was decent last year for Pittsburgh when he was up. I think he will be one of their best rookies this year. There is going to be a couple of those guys that play up in the system for Pittsburgh this year, so Koivunen is one of the ones that I'm looking forward to. Rutger McGroarty, again, spent the majority of last season with the Penguins. He did spend the beginning of the year with the NHL club, and then you could kind of see that he wasn't ready. They sent him down to Wilkes-Barre, where I got to see him play a little bit, and then obviously they brought him back up at the end of the season. I thought he looked better at the end of the season than he did at the beginning of the season. That's what pro hockey and pro hockey development does to you. So I expect for him to make the roster. And then Anthony Mantha, I don't really know what to expect from Mantha. He could be a good third liner. He could be a good first liner. You don't know with that injury that he's coming off of. And then Heinen, one of the long-time players on this team. I know he was with Pittsburgh, but he's a decent fourth liner. And then Noel Acciari as well. kind of the same thing, just a depth player, to be honest with you. Nothing too crazy there. You look at your center core, and this is the most positive part of this, I guess. You have Sidney Crosby, Evgeny Malkin, Tommy Novak, Blake Lizotte round out your first four. Then you have Connor Dewar as your extra forward there, as well as your center core. So Crosby is Crosby. There have been a ton of rumors on Crosby and possibly him leaving the Pittsburgh Penguins, almost like Colorado Avalanche, and going over to a team like Montreal or Colorado. His agent did come out and say, Pat Brisson, did say that it's not impossible, but I got to be blunt with you, saying that it's not impossible doesn't mean that it's likely. I think, honestly, like, this is up to Crosby. Whatever Crosby wants to do, that's up to him. He has done so much for this organization. He's brought home 3 Stanley Cups. I think he deserves to have a say in where he wants to play at this point in his career. So I do have a feeling, though, that, like, Kyle Dubas, for the life of him, wants to trade this guy. Like, he wants to trade him. You can't tell me otherwise. He wants to trade Sidney Crosby, but he can't, because if he did without Crosby's wishes, I think that city would burn down. Maybe not burn down, but they would not be very happy. It's not Philly, by the way. It's Pittsburgh, so they wouldn't burn the city down. They'd be upset, but they wouldn't be that upset. Regardless, Evgeny Malkin is probably in his last season as a Pittsburgh Penguin. I hate to say that, but it's probably going to be his last season. They did come out and say they're not signing him. So I wonder, and this is my speculation, this was my thinking while I was thinking about this video today before I came to make it, could Evgeny Malkin just be like, yeah, no, I'm done, and just go to the KHL? I wouldn't be shocked at the slightest. If he doesn't get re-signed by Pittsburgh and he wants to, maybe keep his legacy there in Pittsburgh and not, it wouldn't be tainted if, like, he went to another team, but it wouldn't be the same. It's kind of like Patrick Kane. Like, he was in Chicago for so long, built a legacy there, and then he's now, like, with the Rangers, and then he was with Detroit, and it's just like, man, that's really weird. You'd think he'd be on one team his whole career, or Claude Giroux's another reference as well. But I would wonder if Malkin maybe wants to go over to Russia to end off his career. Wouldn't surprise me. Anyway, Tommy Novak, good third-line center. I think he's one of those younger players you can kind of watch out for. He was my sleeper pick, I believe, of guys on this roster. And then Blake Lizotte, not a bad fourth-liner. And then Connor Dewar, kind of the same thing. On your right wing side, you have Brian Rust, Ricard Raquel, Philip Tomasino, Kevin Hayes, and Justin Brazeau are the guys on your right wing side. So Brian Rust was not the Rust that we have known for many years. I do believe that if there comes an option for them to trade him, they will. I think if a team comes along and is like, we want Brian Rust, I don't think Kyle Dubas is going to say no. Raquel, I was shocked they didn't trade him last year. He scored a good amount of goals last year for the Penguins, and I thought maybe, like, with the seller's market, hypothetically, you could have gotten maybe 2 first-round picks. Maybe, depending on what team you're trading him to. But they didn't, and I was a little bit shocked by that. I was like, why are you extending him and not trading him when you're rebuilding? But regardless, I guess you got to keep Crosby happy or something. Philip Tomasino will be interesting as well. Not a bad third liner there either. And then Kevin Hayes and Justin Brazeau, kind of the same guys. Like, again, like, there's a lot of players on this forward core, especially the bottom 6, where you just look at it and you're like, yeah, that's a bad bottom 6. That's a bottom 6 that is rebuilding. So just want to preface that and put that out there. But yeah, this forward core is not very good outside of a very few select amount of players, and I don't expect it to be good heading into next year. Now you take a look at your defensive core for the Penguins. You start off on your left shot side. You have Ryan Shea, Chris Letang, Owen Pickering, and Ryan Graves are your 4 guys on that left shot side. So Ryan Shea over Chris Letang is interesting, but he's one of those underrated players. Not a bad defensive defenseman, I guess you could say. Letang, he's on the tail end of his career. He has been through so much with his overall NHL career, especially over the last, like, I would say 3 or 4 years. It just hasn't been great. I mean, like, that's just like, I don't mean to be mean. I love Letang, even as somebody who's not a fan of Pittsburgh, but you got to be honest with yourself. Like, he's just not at the stage where he's very good anymore. Owen Pickering should be interesting, though. He's one of those younger guys. He was drafted a couple of years ago. He could be fun. Ryan Graves as well will be a good extra defenseman playing 70 minutes. It's funny because last year Ryan Graves turned into kind of a meme, and everybody was like, when will he score a goal? When will he score a goal? And eventually he did. I think it was like game 60 or something of the season where he finally scored a goal. But anyways, on your right shot side, you have Erik Karlsson, Connor Clifton, Matt Dumba, and Alexeyev are your 4 guys on that side. So I don't even know if I want to go into this. Karlsson is not what he once was. He will score probably like 60 points. He likes to do that and just not play defense, which is all right. But anyhow, I think that Karlsson is just not what he once was. He can still score offensively and be that dynamic quarterback defenseman on your power play. But above all, I'm not expecting a lot. And then the rest of it is just not good. Connor Clifton shouldn't be a second pairing defenseman. Matt Dumba, not great either. And then Alexeyev, going to be your fourth defenseman on that right shot side. I wouldn't be shocked if he does make it into the lineup, though, at some point. But yeah, this is not a good defensive core. I'm going to be honest with you. Like, I don't know how to sugarcoat it, and Penguins fans will agree. This is just not a good defensive core. And I'm sorry, but it's not. You look at your goaltending now for the Pittsburgh Penguins, and I got to be honest with you. You have your mix of guys who are just, like, not good, and then you have, like, your youth. And I think the biggest strength in the Penguins prospect pool is their goalies. So you start off with Tristan Jarry, Artur Shilov, and Yoel Blomqvist as your 3 goaltenders. And then you have Sergei Murashov as your extra goaltender there for Pittsburgh. So Jarry, no, not good last year. Just wasn't great. Again, the first goal on whatever how many shots, 800 times. He's done that a lot. And again, I feel like this year could be better, but this year could also be worse at the same time because I think Pittsburgh is going to be worse. So yeah, not looking great, to be honest with you. And then you look at the other guys like Shilov, again, Calder Cup champion. He'll be a good backup. Blomqvist, I feel like, and I said this in the prospect pool review, his AHL numbers compared to his NHL numbers are night and day. I really do believe that you can't judge him off of those NHL games played because Penguins are not a good team. So I just want to say that. And then Murashov, been very good in the ECHL and very good in the AHL. He could get a shot at some point. So that's something you want to monitor there as well. But overall, the goaltending is actually not terrible when you look at the overall depth. But the starting goalie is not great. So then you look at the biggest questions facing the Pittsburgh Penguins. I only have one because this is not going to be a very good team. How will the defense hold up? Yeah, no. No, I don't think this defense is good. I think that it's going to be one of the worst defensively and metrics this season. I just look at it and I say, this isn't good. This isn't good. So I just want to preface that and say that. But yeah, overall, not a fan of this blue line. It's definitely going to need to get better. And I think, like, again, with drafting and then drafting defensemen, like they drafted that one guy from this past draft who will be good. But overall, this defense is not good. And I don't know how else to say it, but it's just not a good blue line. So now it's time for your biggest and final question. Playoffs, standings, cup. Those are the things that we're asking ourselves about the Pittsburgh Penguins here. So, playoffs, no. Cup, sorry, but no. Standings-wise, I think they finished last. And I think that's very unfortunate to say. But this is a Penguins team that is transitioning from... And I know it feels like transitioning is weird because they haven't made the playoffs in 3 years. But they're transitioning from that team that was a championship winner. They won back-to-back Stanley Cups. They were so good for so many years. And now you're at the point where you have to go and live up to your suffering and endure the pain that a lot of other teams have been through. So, again, that's what happens. When you win a lot and you go through a dynasty, it all comes back full circle. And all it takes is one player for the Pittsburgh Penguins to, or maybe not one, all it takes is one first overall pick or one big draft pick or something. And immediately your franchise has something to look forward to and things seem to be turning around for your franchise. So again, you'll start winning again eventually. It just won't be for maybe another 10 or so years. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. 10 years might be stretching it. I mean, like winning cups. I think, like, it's going to take you 10 years before you start winning Stanley Cups again. You will be good beforehand, but once you get to your full point, not so sure. But let me know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Thank you all for watching. If you enjoyed, like the video down below and subscribe if you are new. We are almost done these season previews. Then we can get to all the fun videos that I have planned. But regardless, let me know your thoughts down below. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next video.